a couple of weeks ago, really, my buddy Mike, we all know Mike, who's a clinical psychologist, said, you got to check out this book. It's the most inspirational book that I've ever read. And he is a clinical psychologist, went to Johns Hopkins, loved the book. I'm not a reader. I got the book. I loved it. I put my friends onto it. Both of them have loved it. And it's the story of a guy who served a life sentence, got a second chance in life, and Chris Wilson joins us now. Chris, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
So, Chris,
Let me ask you, how old are you?
40. I just turned 40.
God, I'm telling you, my brothers look good. He looks
Black
like
don't
25.
crack.
It's so true.
Right.
And Chris grew up kind of in Temple Hills, and
Yeah.
because you were part of the time with your grandparents, part of the time with your mom, who was a single mother. You had a bunch of brothers and sisters. I think part of them, some of your brothers and sisters lived with you. Some of the grandparents was kind of like a nomadic life.
Right.
Yeah. And you've described your childhood, and other people have described your childhood as almost kind of like a war zone existence. Like you wouldn't even.
We couldn't because like the late 80s, early 90s, when the crack epidemic was sweeping through through cities, and people started buying AK-47s in my neighborhood. The drug dealers and the bullets would literally go through our houses.
Right.
And like straight bullets would take people away often.
What school were you attending at that time?
Richardson Elementary School.
Richardson Elementary.
Northeast
So you were
DC.
sleeping on your bed, but I'll say this from reading the book, it seemed like at least early in your childhood, your mom had things together.
Yeah.
And she kind of taught you, for example, like the principles of supply and demand. And he had a blow pop business.
Yeah.
And like he was always an entrepreneur making money. I think you even had like 3 kids in the school working for you in a blow pop business.
That's right. Right.
This is
Scale up.
what grade was this?
Was this like middle school?
No, this was elementary school.
Oh, this was elementary school.
Yeah,
So
so I think I was in 5th grade.
Wow.
So you have the entrepreneurial spirit. Your mother's sort of teaching you that. When you have bullets flying around you in the neighborhood, that's sort of a matter of routine for you. Is it to the point where it's so routine that it's not even scary, or are you scared?
I was terrified.
Terrified every day.
Every day. And I didn't understand why there was so much shooting. And we would call the police. They wouldn't even show up.
So normal, or because they were scared to be in that part of the town?
Maybe both.
Yeah.
This was Lincoln Heights.
Lincoln Heights.
Northeast
Okay, so this is in the
Washington,
district.
Yeah. In the
Okay.
district,
So give me
yeah.
some streets, because I'm not that familiar with that part of the neighborhood.
So Division Avenue, off of East Capitol Street.
Okay,
But this is
okay.
like back in it. This is like the old DC.
Now,
So-
what was your mom doing for work?
So my mom was a paramedic. And
What
so my
was
mom,
she?
yeah, so she's a paramedic. She graduated from Georgetown. She bought her first house at 19, and she was just like moving up and moving up. But because of her work hours, I was too young to be in a house alone. And
Okay.
So I stayed with my grandmother Monday through Friday.
But
Gotcha.
kind of what
Ah.
changed your life in the negative way is your mom got involved with this ex-cop who abused her. And
Yeah.
to the point that you actually witnessed, I think he pistol whipped you,
Yeah.
and then you woke up and saw him raping your mom.
Yeah. And then he tried to kill her.
How did he try to kill her?
Well, he took his gun and he took like his fist and he just bashed her skull in. So he broke the orbital bone over her skull.
And you saw all this.
Yeah. I was the one who took her. I tried to take her to the hospital, but I ended up going to a police station.
Right.
And they didn't do anything.
Now, was he arrested?
Yeah, he was arrested. He lost his job, obviously, for that. But because he was a police officer, he only did about 18 months. And he came home and he started stalking our family. And there was no law against stalking back then.
Really? Do you
So
know
wait-
where he is now?
He's still here in D.C.
Wow.
And part of the thing as your personal life, like I think as a kid, like you said, you had this blow pop business. I think you were playing cello. Like you
Yeah.
kind of had things going.
I was
It
on a
seemed
chess
like in a
team,
positive direction. Things turned though when he got involved with your life, because not only was there that big incident, there were a lot of incidents, and your mom kept taking him back.
Right.
And your mom kept taking him back. Your brother got involved in gangs and kind of the drug culture, shooting, and you found yourself at a point in your life where you started carrying a gun.
Exactly.
How old were you? I need more timeline.
13.
13, you start carrying a gun. Where do
Yeah.
you get the gun?
Guns were everywhere.
So what did it say? Just ask a buddy and give
Yeah,
him 10 bucks?
I need a gun, yeah. It was probably more than that. I think it was like $80. But
And
How do you, hold on, slow down, Jippy. I know you're trying to race through it. Just slow down. How do you get the 80 bucks? You're
Dice-
13
dice
years
game.
old. Huh?
dice game.
You're playing
shooting
dice.
Yeah.
You're shooting dice. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, your brother, Derek, how old was he? How much older is he than you?
Maybe 4 years older than me. about
Okay,
4
so he
years.
was running the streets. He
Yeah.
was in a gang?
He wasn't in a gang. Like we called them crews. We had gangs back in D.C. back in the day. It was just a crew, like wherever neighborhood you were from.
And your crew could be positive. You could go to Go-Go's. You talked about that. But you started kind of hanging with the wrong crowd. And at one point, before the incident, which we'll get to, you actually got kidnapped to the point that he actually heard these people talking about how they were going to get rid of his body.
All right, explain that whole thing.
So it was a misunderstanding. Some other people had stole some drugs. I wasn't a drug dealer. I never sold drugs. And they thought it was me. It was like, Chris got the drugs. And so these men came and they kidnapped me. And they took me to this house. And they had like dogs. They sicked the dogs on me. And then they would just argue. And they was like, put him in the Anacostia River. We can do this. And they was like, no, he would float to the top. And like I could hear him. And I was so terrified.
Where were you when you could hear him? Where were you?
I was in the basement of some house that they took me
Okay.
to.
So you're obviously pleading with him saying, dude, I didn't do it.
I was like, it's not me. Like, and I was a child. Like I just used the bathroom on myself.
How old were you?
I was probably 15.
15 at that time.
And so
15.
not to set all this up as an excuse, but given all of that, you then have the incident which changes your life.
Right.
Because you took a life.
Right.
So how did that happen?
So all these incidents that happened. So I also lost 5 of my friends at this point. 2 of them got shot in front of me, and I had to send them off. And then, I got
What were they shot over?
just stupid stuff. Sometimes it
An
was
argument.
just nothing. Tennis shoes, an argument, a girl, and like people, and like one of my friends was just shot by a police officer. And like all this stuff had happened, and then I kept thinking about when my mom was attacked and like stuff that happened to me. I got kidnapped. I had a gun on me. But I just did, like I had it for protection. I didn't like have the heart to pull it out and shoot it. And so after all this stuff happened, I was like, if I hesitate again, I'm gonna end up dead. And so one night I left my house and I was at my mom's house, and like these men, because my family was being stalked, so these men started following me. And so I knew they were following me, and so I went to a gas station where there was a bunch of people, and I was like, they won't do anything to me here. And then these guys were like, we've been watching you, we've been watching your family. And then they rushed me and tried to get behind me. And I had my gun on me, and I pulled it, and I ended up taking the person.
Were they older when you said
they were in
men?
their 30s.
Okay. And they
I
were
was 17.
And why were they?
Yeah, why were they stalking your house, your family?
I have no idea.
You have no idea why they were watching you. Like,
Yeah.
like what did they want from you?
I would guess and say they were probably friends of my mom's old boyfriend.
And so they just wanted to terrorize you.
Yeah.
guys,
Because
basically.
my brother, at this point, my brother had got shot. My cousin had got shot. My cousin passed away. This happened in front of the house. And we all started carrying guns. Even my sister carried a gun.
Right.
So you end up going to trial, and while you're awaiting trial, you're in Upper Marlboro.
Well, hold on. I want to
you're
get back to
going
the.
too fast.
I want to get back to the incident.
Well, yeah, we only have certain time, but you can't go too fast.
Yeah. I mean, you're trying to do the entire book.
I'm giving you some key. Well, no, you're going to go through like 50 pages.
Well, hold on.
It's all good. Let's do it.
I just have questions
slow
about.
down, JP.
I have questions about the incident. All right.
Yeah.
So you're walking to the gas station,
Right.
and you know these 2 men are behind you.
Yeah.
And they're what are they saying to you? Are they saying something to you as they're behind
so
you?
as they approached me, so I go around a whole bunch of people. They approached me and was like, we've been watching you and don't think that you're safe. We know where your mom is. We're going to kill you, this and that. And another guy ran and tried to get behind me, and I shot him.
So they didn't show a gun. You were just.
I didn't see a gun. I don't know.
Okay. And you shot the guy.
Yeah.
And then
then
everyone
what happened
just kind of run
immediately?
Yeah.
off?
So they ran in a different direction. I ran in the opposite direction.
And then how long before you get arrested?
Maybe like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Why did it take so long?
They gotta
People
find the
wouldn't
weapon.
snitch, or
Well, my friend got arrested for something else, and he was like, I know about something that happened. And so he used like what I told him.
Oh, so he
happened.
snitched.
Yeah.
He ratted on you.
Yeah.
all right. So
This-
then when you're arrested, then you get, I assume you get a public defender.
I actually got an attorney.
You did have
Got
it.
an
You
attorney,
had a real attorney.
Yeah.
And then JP tells me you didn't use like defense, like
Self-defense?
self-defense
Yeah.
as your defense.
Right. So I was young. I didn't know much about law. All I knew
Well,
growing
the
up in the
attorney
streets.
should.
Well, yeah, but so I didn't trust my attorney. I didn't understand like the relationship that you have with an attorney. So at the time, I didn't come clean about actually what happened until like a decade later. When I
Well,
was
how
standing
old
before-
were
You
you
even
when-
told your dad. So his dad, he didn't have a great relationship with his dad. So he's awaiting trial. His dad comes to see him, and this is not a positive influence. So your dad
Yeah.
just grilled you
Yeah.
and said, why would you kill somebody? And you actually told your dad, I didn't kill him.
Right. I did. I
Oh,
said,
so
yeah.
you just denied it.
Yeah.
To your attorney even, you denied it. You said it
Yeah.
wasn't me.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. How old were you at the time when the shooting happened?
17.
You were 17.
And so
Okay.
he goes to trial, and then just to fast forward a little bit, you get a life sentence
Yeah.
without parole.
I had the possibility parole, but in the state of Maryland, no one gets parole with a life sentence.
Talk about the moment, though, that you then are taken to solitary. You said in the book, everybody cries when they realize it's the end.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't cry when I received the sentence. I went to my cell. I cried. They put me on solitary confinement for a long time. I had like no.
What's a long time? I have no idea.
2 months.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And just no human interaction. And I just kept thinking, like, my mustache hadn't even grown in on my face yet. And I was like, I haven't done anything with my life. And I didn't start this. Like, I was a child. I made this decision. I know, like, now on paper, like, people like, you killed someone. And I was like, I just didn't want to be remembered as a person that done that. And that was kind of like my rock bottom. And I was like, I got to figure out a way how to prove to people that my life.
We
Let me
gotta
ask you
take
this.
a break.
Real
Well-
quick, did you have any remorse after you killed the guy? Did you feel any remorse for that guy or that guy's family?
So honestly, it took me about 6 years to really like be remorseful. And that's just being honest. Like, people would say like they're sorry or whatever, but I had been through so much that I was desensitized about like what happened.
I know you got to go break. What was your mom's reaction though? Because she's trying to do the right thing, right?
She was devastated.
Right?
Yeah,
She couldn't
devastated.
believe this, I'm sure.
Yeah, she was devastated.
You're not running away from this. And by the way, some people believe you shouldn't have the platform. Why don't we address that? What makes you deserve the platform to talk about it, to write a book and profit on it if you're profiting on it?
Right. So I think it's important for people to understand that this crime, I didn't decision as a child. It's my time in prison. I used my time wisely. Like, I got my college degree. I taught myself to read and write in several foreign languages. I mentored hundreds of people behind the fence. Educated myself even more. Came home and done the same thing. Hundreds and hundreds of people I've helped in Baltimore City.
And I told these guys, read the book isn't about his crime. That may
Exactly.
it might be 2 pages out of 400. The book's about who you are.
Right.
And about developing a master plan and focusing on your end game and having a purpose in life. So
Exactly.
let's get to that because we don't have much time.
Right.
So you end up in prison, and I think you're depressed for a couple of months. You're like, I'm 17. I can't even grow a mustache.
Right.
What the hell happened to me?
Right.
And one of the things, and this is maybe earlier in life, but you talk about the cave,
Yes.
which is Plato's The Cave, the allegory of the cave. And you
Yes.
had been in the cave,
Yes.
but you knew there was something better for you in your life, and deep down you felt you were a good person.
Right. So exactly. And so a lot of people live in a cave, and the cave, and the way I describe it is perspective, the way you see your life. And so what I thought about was, what's my end game, and what kind of person I know that I am and that I could become. Who would I be at 40? And so I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur. I wanted to be a positive example for people in my neighborhood that I grew up in. And I wanted to help lead people out of the figurative cave by providing job opportunities, by just doing good stuff in the world. And so I knew that's what I wanted to be. And so then I worked backwards. And I was like, I need to educate myself. I need to go to therapy, and I need to just figure this stuff out. And so I just worked on it.
And you were able to do this. You talk about this. You talked about your positive delusion.
Yeah.
That there are Bamas in prison.
That's
So
right.
explain what Bamas are in prison and how you could kind of keep your head down and learn to speak Spanish, Italian, Mandarin.
Right.
Learn how to, ultimately you have an upholstery business, so you learn in wood shop and things
Right.
like that.
By the way, what jail were you in?
I was in Patuxent in Jessup, Maryland.
Okay.
So like, when I say Bamas, think about the folks that are in the cave, and these are the people who just like, they're just, doing drugs all day, yelling, rap music, and just like not really like focus about what their purpose are in life.
Well,
right?
they're probably just giving up.
just
right?
giving up.
Yeah, they just
right?
don't
And
care.
no hope. And so like, there was a lot of Bamas in prison that were just like, stabbing people, running crazy and stuff like that. And so I deliberately chose to believe, I call it a positive delusion, but believe that I would be free one day, that I would be a good person.
What made you think, when you know that your life in prison, nobody in Maryland has ever given parole, what
Right.
made you have faith that you would be the exception?
I just chose to believe that I could do it, and that my life I was meant to do something else.
Right.
I
That's
mean,
just inner belief that you
Yeah.
have.
And just faith. And you had a lawyer who believed in you.
Right, exactly.
Keith Shostak.
Yeah, he would come visit me like every 6 months for like no reason, just so like I had life.
How did he know your story? Hold on. How did he know your story?
So he started out as I guess like an intern or a junior attorney in the firm that my lawyer had was battling cancer, and so he was working in the firm, and so my lawyer asked Keith Shostak, just visit him. He's a good guy.
Keep
He
an
has
eye on
potential.
him.
Keep an eye on him, and so he would come see me every couple of months.
What kind of stories or things did you see, witness in prison?
Everything that's on the streets.
I mean, how many
Except
times
for
were you
guns.
threatened specifically?
A couple of times.
Did
But-
you have to fight your way out of some things?
When I first got in, yeah. But the way prison is, you mind your business. You stay out of people's way.
They don't mess with you?
They don't mess with you.
Now, so your lawyer then would try and get a hearing for a sentence reduction, and
Right.
it got rejected time
Yeah,
and time
5
and time
times,
and time
yeah.
again. But during that whole time, you stuck to your master plan,
Right.
and like you said, you started mentoring people and doing things like that. Steve Edwards was like a mentor of yours. Talk about
Yeah.
this guy. I found
Oh,
this
brother. Love
fascinating.
him.
So Steve
You
Edwards
got
was a guy
3 minutes.
who also was serving a life sentence, and he would work on computer code. They didn't have a computer in the prison.
Yeah. At the time, they didn't. Yeah. And so he was the one who helped me believe that my life was redeemable. And so he mentored me and tutored me. And he's still a positive influence in my life. And so he made it home. He served 20 years. He made it home. And he's working on his master plan.
By the way, his master plan included stop calling home. So he
Yeah.
shut it down with his family. No gambling.
Right.
No horseplay in public. No sex jokes. Always dress neat. Mind my own business. This is while he's in prison. Learn to speak real English. No junk food. Start my own business, which he started a business in prison where they made $20,000 for like the youth,
Yes.
taking pictures.
Well,
And then you get out.
Yeah.
You finally have this one shot in front of the judge. It took 5 different times, took 10 years. You get a chance to speak in front of the judge. What do you tell them?
I talked about what it felt like as a young man to watch my mom violated and how I grew up just angry and why I was carrying a gun. And then I talked about how remorseful I was for the crime that I committed, how I educated myself, but most importantly, what I would do in the community if she gave me a second chance.
Did anybody from the victim's family ever reach out to you in the last 25 years?
Well, a year ago, I sat down with the victim's family before the book came out. And so we talked about it. They did research. They know what I've been doing. I told them about what happened. They know what I've been doing for the past 20, 24, 25 years.
Were they okay with it?
Yeah.
They were?
Yeah.
And since you've come out, you've started a couple of businesses.
Yes.
You basically give second chances to a lot of people who are in situations like yourself.
Yes.
You even did that with your son,
Yeah.
which I don't know where it is currently, but it didn't work out originally. But you've decided kind of in your life you have to move on. You can kind of teach somebody the path,
Right.
but you can't walk that path for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's painful. Like I've helped hundreds, actually 273 people in Baltimore City get jobs, and other people like around the country. But you can't help everyone. People got to want to help themselves.
Does
you
that
ever-
include your son? Does that mean your son?
Exactly.
How old is he?
2023.
Wow. So did you have him while you were in prison? What, after?
Right before.
Right
So,
before.
yeah.
Right before.
He would see him from time to time, and even
He worked
you know,
for me. He was
worked
a
for you,
manager.
but
at one of my
while you were in
companies.
prison, you actually had to make a decision. He was under the custody of his mother, and
Yeah.
you had to make the decision of whether that was the best thing
Right.
going forward. And you had to take her away from
Yeah.
your mom.
Yeah, it was bad. They found dead bodies in the house, and my mom like started using heroin. Like after the sexual assault, she never recovered,
She fell. Okay, I see.
Mm.
and that's what eventually like led to her just taking her life.
So the last thing I want to say is I was telling people I think this is applicable for all walks of life. Like we grew up in a different environment than you, not that far from you. You used to play
Right.
Temple Hills in basketball.
Right.
I was like, but you're big on having a plan
Yes,
and focusing on your end game and how you want to be remembered.
right. And surrounding myself with positive people, and just being a good person. And I imagine a world where if we all done that, like things would be different.
Mm.
Right.
Do you ever go back to the old neighborhood?
Yeah, occasionally, but it's too painful. I lost too many friends there, but I go back.
Are there still friends that live there that you grew up with?
Everybody's gone.
Everybody's
And you
gone.
also went back to Patuxent,
Yeah.
where you had a powerful moment going back to Patuxent, right?
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. So it's amazing. It's just good to go back in and see guys who have been inspired by my story, who also embrace their education and therapy. And that's what I want to do all around the country.
Look, I think it's an amazing story. Some people didn't support us having you on the show.
It's all good.
It's Chris Wilson. The book's called The Master Plan, My Journey from Life in Prison to a
Thank you,
Life of
Chris.
Purpose.